to Build Propulsion Lab at Devoxx UK. Come to live from London. And my next guest is my dear friend Andres Almiray. Hey Andres, it's
Hey,
been
Baruch.
forever and it's great to see you.
It's great to see you as well.
And yeah, so we have two topics to talk to you about, and both of them are very dear to your heart. And the first, let's start with the first one, which is JReleaser, and that's the open source project that you wrote and run and kind of release. JReleaser, pun intended. And it's a tool for releasing software, basically.
Yes, it's basically a tool that started in the Java space. There was one time when I needed to publish a desktop application written with Java. And most of the times, the instructions were like this. Hey, here's my GitHub user page, and here's my project. Go through these instructions, install all this kind of software, and hopefully you will get some binary that you can use. That's not very user-friendly. It would be much, much better if I say, hey, do you like Homebrew or Winget or any other package manager? Just follow your regular instructions with that said package manager and install the software. That's definitely much user-friendly. So basically, that's the idea behind this project, making sure that you can reduce the friction of a producer of code and their potential consumers, so that you reduce that distance where you produce something and then you release it. And I've been working on this project for close to 4 years now. And in a sense, you can use it for any kind of project. It's not just Java. It can work for any other source language that you want.
So yeah, so I'm familiar with a similar project called JReleaser.
Yes, that was the inspiration.
Right, and it's actually the same idea with hey, you have this Go project and just plug it in and it will generate all the binaries for you for any platform and any usage and this kind of stuff.
Yes, so we kind of have a little bit of a symbiotic relationship with JReleaser, because JReleaser was our inspiration. And it was an inspiration because it only worked for Go code. So if you're building Golang projects, JReleaser is the best way to go for releasing your own project. And there was no such tool for the Java space, so I started with JReleaser. And I took inspiration on some of the features provided by JReleaser and added to JReleaser. And then we added more, and then JReleaser said, oh, it's interesting, you can send tweets, you can post information to email or other communication channels, so announce when a project is released. We want that, so they added that. And so we now have like a circle, we're in a loop of them adding features, and then we adding features, and this kind of positive feedback among between the two tools is great.
I love it. So you take features from each other. This is great. And so now with Go, it's very, I would say, obvious why you need JReleaser, because in the end of the day, getting a Go application is having this binary and then do stuff with it. You might pack it into, it might be a desktop application, or you might get distributed with Homebrew, or it might go into an image and then be like consumed from the cloud.
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, that will be the end point of development, and the start point of using will be the binaries that are produced with JReleaser. Now with Java, it's a little bit different, right? Because we're not used to even deal with a Java binary directly.
Like Java desktop applications or CLIs or stuff, we're mostly used to consuming Java as libraries, as jar files published to Maven Central or some other Maven compatible repository. Correct. Well, it turns out that JReleaser allows you to deploy to Maven Central and other compatible Maven repositories. So now I would say that there are like 3 main adoption drivers of the tool. First, if you have a CLI or a desktop app or something like this, and you want to publish to package managers, that's the first use case. But if you're only interested in creating a Git release with some release notes that we can auto-generate based on commit messages and some commit conventions, commit messages like that you can trick on with so many different rules, then that's the second driver. And the third one is that, hey, I just want to publish to Maven Central. You can do it with Maven and Gradle and any other builder available in the Java space, but some of the rules that you have to follow in your project you with these tools that I just mentioned, if you don't follow the rules, once you publish, and if you don't follow, there will be some failure, and then you have to retry it again and retry it again. So what if you were able to verify that you comply with the rules much earlier in your release process, much local to you, to your development stage? And that's exactly what JReleaser allows you to do. You can validate the rules that Maven Center will apply, but here, before you publish a tag, before you have to, I need to roll back a release because I made a mistake. So the philosophy of the tool, the JReleaser, is to ensure that you can do all these dry runs and tries and all these things early on in your build and release development process before you actually do it for real.
No, this is shift left. This is developer productivity. This is right into our sweet spot of this interview. So you basically run JReleaser on every build. It's just will be a dry run and not the real deal. It might not hit Maven Central if you don't need to. But all the rules, all the verification will be run in every build.
Yes.
This is very cool.
Well, it depends on how you configure the tool. As a matter of fact, our own tool, JReleaser, uses itself to release because obviously it's a CLI. It's built in Java. So it is configured in such a way that every time that we make a push to the main branch, we create an early access or a snapshot release. So we go through the whole process.
Exactly.
Some of the targets, like building a homebrew formula, are deactivated because it doesn't make sense for a snapshot. But it does make sense for the other things that we do. So that's how we can try for real and actual release without some of the final targets. And by the time that you publish a final release, you know that you have made, like, I don't know, 300 pushes or 500 pushes. So that release process has been fully tested. Now you go for the real deal.
And it's also not scary anymore. It's not a big deal anymore. It removes all the drama out of it. And it's generally like it's a very good best practice to repeat it often to remove the drama out of it. If you do the releases all the time, there is nothing special in doing the release on Friday because it's just any other release that you already did 5 times every day.
Yes, the best release that you can make, the best release process that you can have is one of those that you simply say, click a button, let's forget about it. It's so boring, so deterministic and predictive that you just fire it and you can take the afternoon.
I love the boring. I love the boring for releases. This is great.
Exactly.
Okay, no, this is good stuff. Now, another usage, and coming back to like similarities or differences from JReleaser, is actually have a binary that you can run, like a native binary that you can run on your computer, whatever operating system it is, and that kind of brings in the whole native images with Graal VM and all this kind of stuff.
Yes. Is there? So the question is: there some sort of integration with?
Yeah. So I mean, I run a Go application and I have an executable. I wrote a Java application and I run an executable.
Yes.
So how does that work?
Well, we support that case as well, because one of the things that the tool does is that we split the build process from the release process. Certainly, we have plugins for both Maven and Gradle so that you can hook it in. But if the current way that you're using for building the project and the artifacts and binaries, if that works for you, just keep doing it. Once you have built the binaries, once you're ready, then the JReleaser and the release process takes over. There's a way that you can commit the good things. If you were to look in the way how JReleaser works, JReleaser is both a build tool and a release tool. It's in everything in one go, no pun intended. And then in the case of JReleaser, we do the split. So that way that if you're using Conan, or if you're using SCONs for Python, or you're using any other build tool for your particular source language, you keep using that. Once you get the releasable or the deployable artifacts, then you turn into the other tool with JReleaser. Which means if you're building native executable with Graal VM, say you're using Spring Boot or Micronaut or Quarkus, and you use their dedicated support for creating the executables, you build that. Now you have that thing, you have the binary, then you go into the releasable. JReleaser also has an option for creating assemblies. And by assemblies, I mean you can create a zip file based on some jar files following the standard Java binary distribution, or you can create a native image with GraalVM, or you can create a custom Java runtime with JLink, or you could create a platform installer with JPackage, so it's a DNG for Mac or an MSI for Windows and RPM Debian for Linux. So no matter how you created those things, whether it's through the assemblies of JReleaser or other means, once you're done, you continue to the release process.
That's properly built software that all can do. I'm not surprised that coming from you with your experience in running and designing open source projects, which brings me to the next topic of our conversation, and this is for JReleaser, you have a very special home. Pun intended, which is almost a house. And tell us more about that. What's going on with the new software foundation?
Right. So April 9th, we announced the availability alone. I was about to say the release. It's not exactly that thing. There's a new foundation in town called CommonHaus Foundation. Some of the members of the audience might recall them, oh, CommonHaus, that sounds a little bit like CodeHaus, which used to be a code hosting solution many years ago before Given existed. And that's for a reason. We had a little bit of that DNA. Some of the people that used to work at CodeHaus, like myself, now are members or founders of CommonHaus. The idea behind this foundation is it's like it goes in three ways. One is that we want to offer low governance model. That is, if the member project already has a way of how they want to organize their project, how they want to organize the meetings, their contributors, the committers, everything, then they will keep doing that way. There is no CommonHaus ways to do things, and there will not be a CommonHaus way to do things.
And this is very different from other foundations, from Apache, for example, which are very, very prescriptive in how software projects should be run.
It was done for a reason in the way, so it is known as the Apache way. You follow certain rules and you have processes to do releases and monthly report boards and so many things. And that kind of makes sense for those kind of projects. But we want to do things in a different way. So that's one, low governance model. The second one is we want to ensure continued success of the project. So at some point, maintainers will figure out, hey, I like my project, I started this thing, but I want to do something else. So what is going to happen when the main maintainers move on to some other endeavors? In this case, the foundation will ensure that the community will be of the right size and there will be enough committers. There will be someone to step up when the current maintainers decide to go somewhere else.
Well, this is hard to achieve because you can't force people into maintaining a project that no one is interested in yet.
Yeah, though there's definitely, again, there will be no force. We will figure out a way to enable these ways of communications within the projects and the foundation such that we can encourage those contributors to become committers, and those committers that can prove that they have enough knowledge and they care for the project, they have the passion, that they can become more part of the core perhaps, and eventually one of those core maintainers that will take the next, they will be part of the next generation of leaders of that particular community or that particular project.
Yeah, that makes sense, and frankly, I have to say that I feel, and I'm not a big expert on the foundations, but I feel that there is a place for such a foundation which will let the projects do whatever they need to do their own way, but it will also be a home for those projects that will ensure that they stay alive, that they keep being open source. There is no shenanigans with licenses and this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, the other thing is that all projects will be able to continue to use their existing licenses as long as they're open source. So if you are at MIT, you're welcome to join, but it's Eclipse, Apache, or any other that is there's a guaranteed open source library. There you go. We are not going to force you to choose one given license as happened with the other foundations. Again, it makes sense for those foundations to do that way. So we're not saying those foundations are bad. They have their own ways to work, we want to do things a different way.
Yep, that makes sense. And I would say that the success of the foundation is first and foremost by the projects that live in this foundation. Right, so I understand that JReleaser it's already there.
JReleaser is one of the foundings.
Which more projects are there?
So the foundation was launched with 6 founding member projects. We have Hibernate,
This is huge.
Open Rewrite, Jackson, JBank, Morphia, and JReleaser.
So I would say that obviously Hibernate is huge win as a foundation founding member. Jackson, all our Java infrastructure is based on Jackson. This is you might not use it directly, but even if you don't, you probably use it as transitive dependency because everybody uses Jackson. So that's a huge win as well. And obviously, new and fresh and cool kids like JReleaser are also great to have there. Do we expect to have more announcement of more cool projects adding?
We do have established a process for other projects to join as members. Basically, you just go into, you just have to browse the foundation's GitHub page. There is a discussion topic where you can say Project X would like to join, and you follow the steps. It's not really that much elaborate in the process. We have, as far as I recall, 5 other projects currently in the pipeline that would like to join.
Excellent.
And so the word is starting to spread out because the projects that are willing to join the foundation have found that the things that the foundation want to enable for these projects make sense, because that brings me to the third point that we want to make with this foundation, which is complete transparency when dealing with monetary funds. We love open source, and so the people that work on open source are those like myself that believe that we can make the world a better place. We're working on open source, but we live in an environment and a society that is not a utopia. We have to pay the bills somehow. We may get that by our employers, or we may get that by donations and sponsorship. So if when the money comes from the from the foundation, from many of the sponsors that we already have signed up, and there are more people joining us every day, that money will go transparently to the projects. That's the other thing that we like to change. So if you were to become a sponsor for the foundation, you will be able to know who and when that money has gone to.
This is very cool and actually makes tons of sense. Obviously, again, for me, it just makes sense. The foundation just makes sense. If you have an open source project, consider joining. If you use open source, check maybe there's a part of this foundation. And take a look at JReleaser. That might be very useful for your tool as well. Andres, it was a pleasure as usual.
Thank you for having me again.
Thank you very much. And I will see you just right after next episode. Our next guest is already there, and we will be right back.